Hi everybody, I'm Natalie with Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I have a great project to teach you today. So we have come up with these beautiful, lovely lattice kits. We're so excited about our embroidery and all of the fun embellishing ideas that we have, that we thought it would be great to put together a kit that helps you take that just a little step farther and set those blocks on point so it looks really amazing. So the first thing you'll want to do is choose your embroidery or your embellishment. Now we have really lovely kits put together for those, and we've got a couple of new refill boxes. We have this one called Sweet Meadow that comes with beautiful little designs for babies, lots of little baby animals. You've got turtles and foxes and raccoons, and they're just so cute. And then we have Ingrid's Wildflowers Heirloom second edition. So we have more of her flowers. We have flowers for years that she just came up with so many original designs, and we just want to keep sharing them because they're so fun to make. And I mean, I love them. So once you've decided what you're going to embellish your quilt with, you'll want to choose your thread color, and then you'll want to choose your base. So our lattice kits, we've got one in this light gray and then one with white. And you can see the light gray on the wall behind me here. And then the white one has this lovely chambray sashing. So it's beautiful. You could really put anything you want to on these quilts. All right, let's open up our kit and see what's inside. So it comes with this really lovely pattern. It's very detailed, gives you all the information you need to make at least 4 projects. You can make your full-size quilt or a baby quilt, a table runner, or a pillow. All the numbers are in there, and the numbers are in there for all different types of fabrics as well. So whether you have 45s or 60s or layer cakes, whatever it is that you're working with. Okay, so not to get too complicated, we're going to focus on this quilt behind us and this kit. So what it comes with is 32 10-inch squares plus a yard for your background. So this includes the fabric that you need to make your setting triangles. You'll be cutting 14.5-inch squares and then cutting them twice on the diagonal. So that's our background. And then our accent fabric, which includes this is all the sashing and the inner border. That's a yard and a third. And then your outer border is this gray. It's a little bit darker than your background fabric, and I think it looks great. It makes it have like a really lovely framed effect. So that is a yard and an eighth. Your binding and backing are not included. You can use whatever you want for that. There may be enough yardage in here to bind your quilt with because you really only need 3/4 of a yard. So binding is always just kind of like, you probably have enough. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and take the quilts down and I will start showing you how to make this quilt. Okay, so let's get started. So remember, in your kit, you're going to get 10-inch squares, and if you're going to add any embellishments, now is the time to do that. So you'll want to do your embroidery or your applique, whatever it is that you are going to put on your blocks. And if they're on point, remember to line it up with the midline going, diagonally rather than square. When you're all done with your embroidery and your embellishments, then you square them down to 8.5. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick with one of these just to show it. Let's see. Ah, yes. The square that comes out from under the table where all of our rulers are stored. Okay. Being able to square them down after they're embellished is so great because you can really cut to the area that you need and make it look super nice. It changes everything. So you'll need a few other sized pieces. So we're going to cut a bunch of 1.5-inch strips. Some of them will cut down to 8.5, some to 10.5, and then the rest are going to be used as our long sashing. So we'll sew those together and then trim them to fit as we go. Or you can, follow the exact measurements in the pattern. I'm a little bit more of a sew your sashing on and trim it to fit. But let me show you. So the best way, once you've got all your stuff cut out, which, it's in the pattern, fairly self-explanatory, but as I put it up on the wall, I'll show you and talk about each piece and where they go. You'll need 14-inch squares that you'll cut diagonally both directions, and those are going to make up all of the little side triangles. And then you'll need an 8.25-inch square that you cut once on the diagonal to make your corners. So I've got some of those. Let's walk through that real quick. So this is our, let me just double check. Oh, it's a little big on the 8 1/4. So I'm going to trim this one down because this is our corner triangles. We have corner setting and side setting triangles. So if you ever read that in a pattern, this is what they're talking about. We're going to go ahead and cut this one once on the diagonal, and these make up our 4 corners. So you'll only need to do this to 2 squares, and you'll have all the little corners that you need because they just go out on the edges. And then we'll take our big 14.5-inch square. I'm going to put this away now. And this guy gets cut diagonally twice. Now, I realized today as I was prepping this project that you could actually cut a 10-inch square once if you don't have quite enough to make 14.5-inch squares. It works. The bias is on a different side, so you'll have to be more careful when you're stitching, but in a pinch, there's a little trick for you, just so you know. It comes out the same size. All right. So now we've got a good selection of triangles. So what I'm going to do, the way I like to do it is keep my stuff together. So I've got my corner triangles and then my side setting triangles. I have my 10.5 or my 8.5 by 1.5, sorry, and my 10.5 by 1.5. And I don't need as many of these. These are the ones you'll need the most of. And then I've got some long strips that we're going to sew together for our long sashings. This comes together a lot easier than I thought it would. On Point is one of those ones that's like, it's kind of a brain bender. It's not really harder. It's just a twist on how we normally put things together. So I'm going to start. Laying it out always makes it easier for me, and then I can sew it together no problem. So I'm going to start with my corner setting triangle right here, and then I'm going to add my blocks. Now I have a block that I've sewn a couple of the sides on, and hopefully it's not going to be too confusing. So this guy's going to go here, and then we're going to have another row here. So we will add our side setting triangles. And this one goes up here. I need to put one of our 10.5-inch ones right here to make that sashing fit. Okay. And then I've got a sashing here. This one with its sashing. And this one. And this will have a sashing right out here. And then we've got another side setting triangle, and then this is where our long sashing strips come into place, is right in this section. So this is how I would start it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the top here for this piece, and then I'll bring it back and show you what we'll do next. If we just take it one step at a time, I think we'll be able to talk through it pretty easily. To trim that thread. Give it a quick little press. All right. What I'm going to do next is fold this in half and put a little finger press in the middle, because when you're adding these triangles, you kind of want to match middle out. So I'm going to finger press both of these. Then I'll bring them back together, and we're going to line up those little press marks and see how the corners of your triangles are going to hang off. And that is so that when you join it to the next row, you have enough for things to overlap and to make that nice square edge. And remember, if something sticks out funky after you're done, you can trim it off. It's okay. It'll be fine. All right. So we've got this row started. So now I'm going to go ahead and add this here to this side. And after that, I will add this one to the other side. And then we'll do our next row. One at a time, though. I don't want to overlap them. All right, I'm going to flip that back and add this other corner. And I always line up my flat edges on these ones and then let these little triangles kind of hang over. If you want to, you can trim these. I like to reduce the bulk and make it look a little prettier. But that's also something, if you wanted to square it up at the end, you could do that as well. Not a terrible idea. I find that once you get these corners done, putting the rest of the quilt together becomes a lot easier. It's not quite as tricky. And that's when my brain is like, ah, now I know what we're doing. So I'm going to stick this right back up here. Try not to stretch anything because we got some bias going on. And now for this row, so I'm gonna hold off on doing anything with my sashing strip. That's the lengthwise. And what I'm going to do is sew my sashings to each of these and join this entire row. And after I've made the row, then I'm going to add my triangles to the ends. And so that's what we're going to do next. It's kind of nice having these little sashings all pre-cut, then they just go together real quick. Quick and easy. Got a couple more seams. You can see how this is going to line up. It looks good. So now I'm going to add this little side setting triangle right here, keeping my bottom corner lined up with the corner of the row. And I'm going to put one on this end as well, doing the same thing, but it will be going the opposite direction. And because I'm a little bit angle-y challenged, as they say, I just want to make sure I've got this going the right direction. So we'll stick this back up here. This one's laid out so it's got its nice flat top. And then this one, yep, it's going to go just like that. And now I feel confident that I can fold that back and take it to the sewing machine and stitch that on properly. And then I'll show you just a few more rows. I think we're gonna get this. It's gonna come together real nice. I kind of enjoy working with solid fabrics because you don't have to worry about mixing up some of your squares or you're getting your block, you know, the row upside down. They're all the same, so it's great. It just takes a level of pressure off. Get this other end. Okay. So that is how that goes. Whoops. I think I might get some pins and pin this up just so that it stays nice. I love having a board with foam that I can stick the pins right into because then everything stays exactly where I want it to. Okay. All right, so I've already gone ahead and sewn some of our other rows and I've added some sashing so you can see how this is going to look as it comes together. The longest row here has 5 or 6 squares, I believe. Oh, I think that's not the right one. Hang on. Here we go. This one's shorter. And they just continue to line up just like this. All right, so this next row is nice and long and it's going to mark the corner, this other top corner of our quilt. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that on here. I've sewn the sashing on this one to both sides. You can do your sashings kind of in whatever order you feel comfortable with. But make sure you've got your sashing on and then your side triangles. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch my corner triangle to this. I'm going to do the same thing where I fold it in half and find my middle. So it's going to look just like that. And we are almost to the end of this here. We just do the same thing in a descending version. Continue laying it out and stitching it together. I'm going to go ahead and line up my marks here. And I think I'll just, since I have these right here, I'm going to stick a little pin just to keep them together. Pull that pin out now that I've got it secured. All right. All right, so I've got the corner added here. I'm going to pin this up, and then I'm going to start assembling rows, which means I'm going to go back here and add my sashing first, and then put these rows, those two rows together. And the rest of the quilt is very similar to this. You're just going to continue putting rows together. So let me do this real quick. All right, so I have noticed that I should have put this sashing on before I added the side triangles. So I went ahead and did that. And I will also suggest when you're adding your long sashing, add it to the row on top so that it doesn't get, the feed dogs often pull more fabric through the bottom, and you don't want your sashing to get all wavy. So keep your sashing strips on top of your blocks and make sure and hold them just gently taut. Not super tight, you're not pulling because you don't want to shrink it up in that way either, but you want to make sure that it stays a little bit, just a little bit taut. All right, so I've added this sashing. I'm going to show how that looks. We'll stick it back up here. And now I can go along and I'm going to add this piece to this piece, and then I'll add this row to this row, and so on and so forth down the quilt, and it's going to be great. It's going to look so good. So on this one, I'm not going to worry about like finding a center. What I'm going to worry about is matching up these sashings. So I've got that lined up the best I can. I'm going to stick some pins in here, and I'll probably look at it again and adjust when it's down on my lap. I'll take it over to the cutting table and take a look at it. Because what I like to look for is, are they still lined up all the way through? Because this can be the trickiest part for me, really. Just making sure that everything looks good and matchy. The other thing I do sometimes is line it up down here and then slide it forward. But honestly, you kind of just have to take a breath and go with it. And if it really, really bothers you, you can try to fix it if it's a little bit crooked, but otherwise I would say just let it go. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a thing. As long as you're happy with it, that is all that matters. Pull that pin out now and hope and pray it goes where it's supposed to go. You should know this is a struggle for me, a big struggle. I have a really hard time lining them up. So I think if I was doing this myself, I would be very tempted to add cornerstones into my sashings, and that would just make that'd make all my sashing strips 8.5, and then I would just put a little 1.5-inch square at all the junctions, because I might rather have the seams to work with, but that's a totally up to you design decision that you can make if you want to. The cornerstone hack. We'll see. We'll see how I did. Oh, one's terrible and one's okay. But either way, I'm fine with it. I'm gonna let it go. Because you'll see what I'm being picky over. You probably will look at it and say, oh, that looks just fine. Your quilt is great. No sense in losing sleep over it. So here we go. Pin this up. And so you can see, I'm not super thrilled with this one, But I think once I get this quilt quilted and borders added, nobody's gonna notice it. It'll be all right, right? All right, so just like magic, you've got your whole quilt sewn together. We're gonna go ahead and add an inner border that's 1.5 inches, and our outer border is 4.5 inches. And then we quilted it in this beautiful cottonseed pattern. Obviously you can quilt however you like, and it looks beautiful. I quilted right over my embroidery and my applique every time. It never bothers me at all. It holds it down and looks so great. So let me show you some of our embellished projects because I think they turned out awesome. All right, so this is the table runner that I made, and what I did is I went ahead and used the Ingrid's 2-pack. So I used our little acrylic templates because I thought this tiny little one was so cute. You just do your applique just as normal, put your Sew Light adhesive on the back, and then flip it over, iron it down, and I did a little blanket stitch, top stitch on it. So that turned out really cute, just like that. All right, and then we made this beautiful pillow. My friend Rachel worked on it, my assistant. She added some felt here for these beautiful, the mushroom dots. I thought they turned out so cute, and the stems. So you can mix and match. You can add felt or fabric or whatever, and then also your embroidery. And I know, so these little corner squares, I think it was a bit of a tricky mind thing for her when she put the embroidery on it, because you have to draw a line, make sure your stuff's going the right direction, and then make sure that it's within the area that's going to show to get it all lined up. But I think she did a beautiful job. So remember, in your pattern you'll get all the instructions to make any variety of these projects, and it's going to be super fun to see what everybody else creates. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Lovely Lattice Quilt Kit from Missouri Star Quilt Company. Thank you so much for joining me for this video today. I hope that you enjoyed it and that it inspired your creativity. And guys, we're at almost 1 million quilters strong in our community. So if you know of anybody that you think might like to join us and learn quilting with us, bring them on in, put your arm around them, and tell them to subscribe to our channel so that we can all learn and grow together.